Have you ever noticed how easy it is to blame the world when life isn't going the way you hoped? We point to circumstances, to other people, to timing, anything but ourselves. But here's the uncomfortable truth: nothing changes until you do. The Stoics believed that freedom doesn't come from controlling the world outside, but from mastering the world within. Imagine if, instead of waiting for life to fix itself, you decided today to take radical ownership of every choice, every action, every moment. How different would your life look a year from now if you stopped handing away your power? If you're done drifting through life, it's time to take the wheel. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own discipline, your own clarity, your own growth. Every step toward mastery is a step toward becoming who you were meant to be. And that journey starts now. People love to believe that success belongs to the gifted. It's comforting to think that some people were simply born with something special the rest of us can't reach, as if their lives were written in the stars and ours were left to wander in the dust. But if you look closely, that belief is nothing more than an illusion. It is a story we tell ourselves to excuse our own lack of effort. The Stoics would remind us that talent is far less powerful than discipline, and discipline is available to everyone. A seed, no matter how rare or valuable, will never grow if it isn't placed in soil and watered. The same is true for you. The potential you admire in others isn't magic. It's effort stacked on effort, day after day, often in silence when no one is watching. What makes this illusion dangerous is how easily it becomes a cage. When we convince ourselves that talent is destiny, we quietly surrender before the battle even begins. Think about how many times you've looked at someone's success and said, "They're just lucky, they're just gifted." That thought feels safe, doesn't it? Because if success is only about natural ability, then you don't have to hold yourself accountable for the work you haven't done. You don't have to ask why you've avoided the discomfort of discipline. But every time you choose that excuse, you trade the possibility of growth for the comfort of surrender. And the truth is, comfort has never created greatness. Seneca once said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." What he meant is that those who look lucky are usually the ones who prepared, often for years, while the rest of the world looked away. Carl Jung believed that each of us carries more within us than we often allow ourselves to see. He wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. If you are waiting for proof that you are capable before you act, you will wait forever. Clarity doesn't come first. Action does. Once you begin, once you face the grind and the discipline, your vision sharpens. The illusion of talent fades, and you begin to see that what you thought was unreachable was simply neglected inside you, waiting to be cultivated. Every person you admire began uncertain, flawed, and ordinary. The difference is that they refused to stop. Think about the craftsmen who built cathedrals that took generations to complete. Most never saw the final masterpiece. They laid one stone upon another, trusting that the act of building was worth more than recognition. That's what discipline looks like in practice. You don't measure your worth by how gifted you are on day one. You measure it by how many times you return to the work, even when no one claps, even when the results come slowly. Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. Freedom isn't in waiting for a talent you may never see. It's in mastering the choices you make each day, especially the smallest ones. So ask yourself, is it really true that you lack talent? Or is it that you have refused to nurture what you've been given? Every time you dismiss yourself with the thought that you aren't naturally gifted, you are watering the weeds of doubt while starving the seeds of your potential. There is no person alive who doesn't carry something worth cultivating. The difference is in who chooses to nurture it with action. If you rise early to practice your craft, if you persist through boredom and failure, if you refuse to quit when the results don't show, what looks like talent will grow. Others may call it natural, but you will know the truth. It was built, not born. The illusion of talent will keep you small if you let it. It will whisper that you can't, that others were chosen and you were not. But look deeper, and you will see that those who rise are rarely the most gifted. They are the most disciplined, the most consistent, the ones willing to pay the price of effort every single day. The world will always celebrate the outcome and call it talent, but you will know, if you choose the harder path, that it was forged through discipline, sharpened through resilience, and sustained by a simple decision, not to stop. And maybe that is where the true test lies. The question isn't whether you were born with enough talent. The question is whether you are willing to nurture the little you have until it becomes more than enough. Because greatness is not a gift, it is a responsibility. And if you take ownership of that responsibility, you will find that what once felt like limitation was the very thing that taught you how to grow. It's easy to speak about accountability when life feels calm. In theory, the word itself sounds strong, noble, and even inspiring. But when the alarm rings before dawn, when the tasks of the day stretch endlessly before you, when nobody is there to watch or applaud, that's when the real weight of accountability reveals itself. In those quiet moments, the shine of the word fades, and what remains is the raw question of whether you will follow through on the promises you whispered to yourself in easier times. True accountability is not glamorous. It's not a motivational quote on a wall or a quick burst of energy after hearing a speech. It is the grind of showing up when it would be simpler not to, the discipline of carrying the load no one else can carry for you. That heaviness is why so many people talk about accountability but never really practice it. It feels uncomfortable because it strips away excuses. You can no longer say, "I didn't have time," or "I wasn't given the chance," when the mirror asks you plainly, "Did you do what you said you would do?" Marcus Aurelius captured it with sharp simplicity. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. In the same way, waste no more time debating what accountability should look like. Either you act or you don't. Either you honor your word or you betray it. There is no middle ground. And yet, this weight is not meant to crush you. It is meant to strengthen you. Think about lifting heavy stones. At first, the strain feels unbearable. But over time, the very act of carrying builds the muscle that makes the next stone easier. Accountability works in the same way. Every small act of follow-through, whether it's finishing the workout you didn't want to start or sending the report you promised, builds a deeper trust in yourself. You begin to realize that your word has weight, and that realization is quietly life-changing. Because once you know you can depend on yourself, you stop waiting for permission from others. Still, there is a reason it feels so heavy. It demands more than action. It demands honesty. To be accountable means you cannot hide behind appearances. It means acknowledging where you fell short without disguise and choosing to try again. Seneca warned us that most men are not truly free because they live for the opinion of others. Accountability frees you from that trap. It forces you to care less about applause and more about integrity. Do you act because it's right, or only because someone is watching? That question cuts deeply because it forces you to examine your motives, and it is in that examination that real growth begins. Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Accountability is the act of looking inside with unflinching eyes. It is the daily awakening to the fact that you are responsible for your actions, your choices, your time. This awakening can feel painful because it removes the comforting illusion that circumstances or other people are the reason for your stagnation. But at the same time, it gives you back your power. If you are responsible, then you also have the power to change. The heaviness of accountability is also tied to its loneliness. When you stand accountable, you often stand alone. Others may not understand why you push yourself when no one demands it. They may not see the point of the quiet sacrifices, the hours spent in practice, the discipline maintained when it seems unnecessary. But that solitude is not weakness. It is the ground where character is formed. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Accountability is examination in action. It is the process of constantly testing whether your choices align with the life you claim you want. And that process, while lonely, creates an unshakable foundation. Over time, accountability transforms from weight into freedom. At first, it feels like chains, binding you to commitments that no one else sees. But slowly, you realize those chains are made of your own discipline, and they hold together the structure of your life. Without them, everything collapses. With them, you can stand firm no matter how strong the storm. So when accountability feels heavy, remind yourself that heaviness is the point. You cannot grow strong without resistance. You cannot build trust in yourself without being tested. Accountability does not exist for the easy days when motivation carries you forward. It exists for the days when motivation is gone, when fatigue sets in, when no one else will notice whether you succeed or fail. Those are the moments that define you. Not because others are watching, but because you are. The truth is, accountability will always feel like a burden until you understand it is also a gift. It is the quiet proof that your life belongs to you. And though it weighs heavily at times, it is that very weight that shapes you into someone unbreakable. The question that remains is simple but piercing. When no one is watching, when the applause has faded, when it is only you and the choice before you, will you still act? Imagine sitting across from someone you deeply admire, a mentor, a guide, the kind of person whose opinion carries weight because they live the life you respect. Now imagine laying out your entire week in front of them, hour by hour, choice by choice. No filters, no excuses, no explanations, just the raw truth of how you spent your time. Would you hold your head high, confident that your actions matched your ambitions? Or would you feel the sting of shame, shrinking under the quiet realization of how much of your life was given away to distraction, to delay, to things that do not truly matter? This is the mirror test. It is not about judgment from others, but about whether you can look at yourself without flinching. Time is the currency of life, and yet it is the one resource we spend most carelessly. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." The mirror test forces you to ask whether you've been a faithful steward of that resource or a careless spender. Every hour you waste is not just time lost, it is life lost. And once it slips away, it never returns. Most people think of accountability as holding themselves to tasks or goals, but in reality, it begins much deeper. It begins with the recognition that your time is your life, and how you spend it reveals what you truly value. The unsettling part of the mirror test is that it doesn't let you hide behind your words. It doesn't care about your intentions or the promises you made to yourself. It only reflects what you actually did. If you said you wanted to get healthier but spent your evenings scrolling endlessly instead of moving your body, the mirror will not lie. If you said you wanted to build a business but your hours were poured into entertainment, the truth will be clear. Carl Jung once observed, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." That line cuts through all illusions. The mirror test is the place where your actions either align with your vision or expose the gap between who you claim to be and who you truly are. This is why the test feels so heavy. We are experts at justifying our choices to ourselves, bending the truth so we can feel comfortable. We tell ourselves that rest is deserved when it is really avoidance, that tomorrow will be different when tomorrow is only a repeat of yesterday. But the mirror does not accept excuses. It only reflects what is. And that reflection can either be a source of pride or a source of discomfort. Both are valuable because one encourages you to continue and the other forces you to change. Imagine for a moment that you had to explain every decision of your day to someone you deeply respect. Would you feel comfortable saying, "I spent 3 hours lost in meaningless distraction," or "I gave up when things got difficult"? The thought of that conversation is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is precisely the point. Epictetus taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." The mirror test is nothing more than holding your life against that standard. Are you doing what you must to become who you claim you want to be? And yet, the mirror is not there to condemn you. It is there to awaken you. If you see wasted hours, that does not mean you are broken. It means you are being shown where to improve. It is a reminder that every day is a fresh chance to redirect your energy. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that his time was short and that every day could be his last. To him, this was not a reason for despair, but for urgency. To wake up and realize you have been careless with your hours is not the end. It is the beginning of change. This practice requires courage. It is not easy to see yourself clearly. Most people avoid it by keeping themselves endlessly distracted because silence and reflection bring uncomfortable truths. But it is in that silence that you find your direction. When you begin to take this test seriously, you realize how powerful it is. The hours you once wasted begin to weigh differently because you know you will face them later in the reflection. And slowly, you become more intentional. You begin to ask, if I had to justify this moment, would I feel proud or embarrassed? That simple shift can transform how you live, not because others are watching, but because you are. The mirror is always there, silent but unrelenting. So how much of your life do you let slip away unnoticed? That question is not meant to haunt you, but to remind you of the gift you've been given. Time is limited, fragile, and sacred. When you honor it, you honor yourself. The mirror test is heavy because it strips away illusion, but it is freeing because it gives you clarity. And with clarity comes strength. The strength to align who you are with who you want to be. Excuses are some of the most convincing lies we tell ourselves because they wear the mask of reason. I don't have time. I don't have support. I don't have the resources. On the surface, these statements sound rational, even responsible. But when you strip them down, they are all the same, an attempt to escape the weight of responsibility. They let us feel justified in doing less, while still holding on to the illusion that we wanted to do more. The problem is that excuses may protect our comfort in the short term, but they quietly steal the life we could have lived. Excuses are seductive because they shift the blame away from us. They allow us to imagine that the reason we're stuck has more to do with outside forces than with our own choices. But if you look closer, you'll see that they create a pattern of giving away your power. Every time you say, "I can't," because you hand over the control of your life to something outside yourself. And little by little, you stop believing you have the ability to shape your future. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Excuses deny that truth. They convince you that the problem is always out there, when the real solution has always been in here. What makes excuses so dangerous is not just that they delay action, it's that they become part of your identity. The more you repeat them, the more you start to believe them. You convince yourself that you are too busy, too unsupported, too underprepared, and eventually you stop even questioning whether those things are true. You simply live by them as though they were laws written into your life. This is the subtle prison of excuses. You create the bars, you lock the door, and then you complain about being trapped. The truth is, everyone has reasons not to act. Everyone has obstacles, responsibilities, and moments of weakness. What separates those who grow from those who remain stuck is not the absence of obstacles, but the refusal to let excuses define them. Excuses also thrive in comparison. We look at others and say, they had better opportunities, they had more support, they started with more talent, and maybe some of that is true. But the Stoics would remind us that life is not about what you start with, but about what you do with what you have. Socrates taught that he who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have. In other words, if you are waiting for conditions to be perfect before you act, you will never begin. Excuses feed on this illusion of perfect timing, but there is no perfect moment. There is only now, and the choice to act or avoid. Think of the hours you have lost to excuses. How many dreams have you delayed because you told yourself the timing wasn't right? How many chances have slipped away because you convinced yourself you weren't ready? Every excuse feels harmless in the moment, but over time they pile up into regret. And regret is nothing more than the voice of accountability that was ignored for too long. The mirror of your life does not reflect what you wanted to do, it reflects what you did. Excuses cannot be seen in that reflection, only the absence of action. The challenge is to see excuses for what they really are, thieves of your time, energy, and potential. Once you name them, they lose some of their power. They stop sounding like logic and begin to sound like avoidance. And in that moment, you reclaim something vital, the ability to choose differently. It will never feel easy. Excuses will always whisper because they know the path of action is uncomfortable. But discomfort is not your enemy, it is your teacher. The Stoics embraced discomfort as a way to grow stronger, to test themselves, to prove that their character was not dependent on ease. When you stop listening to excuses, you begin to see obstacles not as reasons to quit, but as opportunities to rise. And slowly, the very weight that once held you back becomes the resistance that builds your strength. So the next time you hear yourself say, "I don't have time," or "I don't have support," pause and listen carefully. Ask yourself if those words are truth, or if they are simply fear in disguise. Remember that excuses, no matter how convincing, do not protect you. They rob you. They take from you the life you could have lived, the potential you could have realized, the future you could have built. And the moment you decide to stop believing them is the moment you take your power back. There is a subtle but crucial difference people often forget, one that can determine whether you move forward in life or stay stuck. That difference is between shame and disappointment. Shame whispers that you are broken, that something is wrong with you at your core, that you will never be enough. Disappointment, on the other hand, simply tells you that you fell short this time. Shame is heavy and paralyzing. Disappointment, though uncomfortable, can be the spark that fuels growth. And yet most of us confuse the two, punishing ourselves when we should be learning, drowning in self-pity when we should be adjusting our path. The Stoics would remind us that our mistakes are not proof of our worthlessness, but opportunities to refine our character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Shame takes a mistake and interprets it as proof of your inadequacy. Disappointment takes that same mistake and interprets it as a lesson. The event does not change. It is your judgment of it that determines whether you will crumble or grow stronger. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall, they stumble, they cry, but no one shames them for falling. The fall is not seen as proof that the child is broken. It is seen as proof that they are learning. And because they are not crushed by shame, they try again. In time, they walk, they run, they explore the world. Now consider how harshly we treat ourselves as adults. One failure, one missed opportunity, one rejection, and we collapse into shame, convincing ourselves that the fall means we are unworthy. But what if we looked at ourselves with the same patience we give to a child? What if we allowed disappointment to be the guide that pushes us forward instead of letting shame chain us to the ground? Carl Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Shame keeps you stuck in what happened. Disappointment opens the door to what can still be. This distinction is vital, because if you confuse shame with accountability, you end up punishing yourself instead of growing. The Stoic way is not self-condemnation, but self-examination. You do not deny your errors, but you also do not make them bigger than they are. You look at them clearly, ask what they reveal, and then decide what to do differently next time. Disappointment, in this way, is a form of hope. To be disappointed means you still care, that you still hold a vision for something better. Shame, however, robs you of that vision. It convinces you that no matter what you do, the outcome will be the same, and so you stop trying. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Shame locks your reaction in despair. Disappointment, if met with courage, sharpens your response and prepares you to act more wisely. Of course, disappointment can still be painful. To fall short of your own expectations stings deeply. But the Stoics embraced this sting as useful. Pain is information. It shows you where to focus, what to improve, what needs to change. Shame numbs you, telling you not to try because you are doomed to fail. Disappointment keeps you awake, reminding you that you are capable of more. It keeps you restless in the pursuit of your better self. This is why high achievers often live with a quiet sense of disappointment. They hold themselves to high standards and constantly see where they could do better. But instead of letting that awareness become shame, they use it as fuel. It is what pushes an athlete to train harder after a loss, what inspires an artist to refine their craft after a weak performance, what drives a thinker to keep questioning after being proven wrong. In this way, disappointment becomes a tool for resilience. Seneca advised, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." That friction is disappointment. It is the resistance you feel when you face the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Shame tells you the gap cannot be crossed. Disappointment tells you the gap exists for a reason, so you can learn how to bridge it. Without friction, without falling short, without that ache of dissatisfaction, there is no refinement. There is only stagnation. So the next time you stumble, pause and ask yourself, am I drowning in shame, or am I sitting with disappointment? If you find yourself telling a story about being broken, unworthy, incapable, that is shame, and it will keep you trapped. But if you can feel the sting without building an identity around it, you give yourself permission to move forward. Disappointment says, this is not the end. This is feedback. Adjust and try again. The difference is everything. Shame is a weight that presses you down. Disappointment is a weight that strengthens you when you carry it. And the choice between the two lies not in the event itself, but in how you decide to see it. Remember this, falling short does not mean you are broken. It means you are human. And if you choose to see clearly, every disappointment can become the stepping stone that leads you closer to the life you were meant to live. Whenever life pushes back against you, the most powerful thing you can do is also the most uncomfortable. You must ask yourself, how is this my fault? At first, those words feel like an attack, as if you are being asked to take responsibility for things that clearly weren't your doing. But this question is not a weapon meant to break you down. It is a tool designed to uncover where your influence truly lies. It strips away the comfort of blame. It denies you the easy refuge of pointing fingers outward. And in doing so, it forces you to look inward, where your power actually lives. Most people prefer to see themselves as victims of circumstance. It's easier to say, "This happened because of them," or "the system is unfair," than to ask what role we played in the outcome. But the moment you shift your attention from the external to the internal, you reclaim something essential: the ability to change. The Stoics were clear on this distinction. Epictetus taught, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Asking, "How is this my fault?" is another way of asking, "What part of my response could I control, but didn't?" Think about a mistake at work, a failed relationship, or a missed opportunity. It's tempting to explain these away by highlighting what others did wrong. But when you take that route, you learn nothing, because the power sits in someone else's hands. If instead you ask what you could have done differently, you begin to see possibilities. Maybe you didn't prepare as thoroughly as you could have. Maybe you avoided a hard conversation until it was too late. Maybe you ignored warning signs because you didn't want to face the discomfort. These realizations sting, but they also light the way forward. Blame only chains you. Responsibility unlocks the door to growth. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When you refuse to ask hard questions, your blind spots run your life. You end up repeating the same mistakes and calling it bad luck. But when you ask, "How is this my fault?" you shine a light into those hidden places. You see patterns of avoidance, weakness, or fear that have quietly shaped your choices. And once you see them, you can no longer pretend you are powerless. The illusion of fate fades, and the reality of choice stands before you. The reason this question feels so terrifying is that it removes excuses. If you can always find some way that your actions contributed, then there is no safe place to hide. That is a hard truth, but it is also liberating, because if there is no safe place to hide, there is also no cage holding you down. You are not doomed to repeat the same cycles forever. You can adjust, you can learn, you can grow. Of course, this is not about self-blame in the destructive sense. You are not meant to berate yourself for everything that goes wrong. Life will always bring storms you did not create: loss, betrayal, accidents. The point of the question is not to assign guilt where it doesn't belong. It is to discover where your influence could have been greater, where your choices shaped the outcome, and how you might respond differently in the future. It's about responsibility, not punishment. Responsibility is not about what's fair, it's about what's useful. And asking how something is your fault is useful, because it reveals where you have the power to act next time. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and creators all share this ability to ask the hard question. They don't waste years nursing old wounds or pointing fingers. They ask, "What part did I play, and how can I play it differently next time?" This mindset transforms failure into a teacher rather than an enemy. It makes setbacks part of the path forward instead of detours that leave you lost. So when life breaks against you, when you lose the job, when the relationship fails, when the opportunity slips away, pause and ask the hardest question. Not to tear yourself apart, but to piece yourself together more wisely. Ask, what was within my control that I ignored? Where could I have acted differently? What choice did I avoid making because it was uncomfortable? The answers are rarely easy, but they are always valuable, because they reveal that even when life feels overwhelming, you are never completely powerless. In the end, the hardest question is also the most freeing. It challenges you to stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a participant in your own life. And when you accept that role, everything changes. You stop waiting for others to fix things for you. You stop resenting the world for being unfair. You take ownership of your failures and your future. And slowly, the same question that once terrified you becomes the one that strengthens you. How is this my fault? Taking control of your life is never free. It comes with a cost, and that cost is heavier than most people are willing to pay. Responsibility demands a kind of emotional tax, a constant toll collected not in money, but in effort, sacrifice, and honesty. It costs you your comfort, because comfort thrives in avoidance. It costs you your excuses, because excuses dissolve the moment you stand accountable. And it costs you the luxury of pointing fingers, because ownership leaves no room for blame. These costs feel steep, and at times they can feel isolating. But the truth is, what you gain in return is far greater than anything you lose. You gain the ability to trust yourself, and with that trust, you stop drifting as a passenger in your own story. You sit in the driver's seat, fully aware that every choice you make carries weight. That awareness can be unsettling at first. When you accept ownership, you can no longer pretend that the circumstances of your life are random or solely dictated by others. Every decision becomes meaningful. Every action becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "It is not external things that trouble us, but our judgments about them." To own your judgments is to accept that the quality of your life is not determined by the storm around you, but by how you choose to navigate it. And once you take that truth seriously, excuses no longer hold the same appeal. You begin to see them for what they really are, escape routes that lead nowhere. But here lies the paradox. The cost of ownership is heavy, and yet, without paying it, you carry a weight that is far heavier. When you refuse ownership, you pay with regret, with doubt, with the quiet sense that you are betraying yourself. The momentary relief of blaming others or retreating into excuses always comes back with interest, in the form of wasted time and lost potential. Seneca wrote, "While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away. Ownership is costly, but hesitation is ruinous. The choice is not whether you will pay, it is whether you will pay in the currency of discipline now or regret later." Carl Jung once observed, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Ownership is the price of that privilege. To become who you are meant to be, you must first accept that no one else can walk your path for you. No one can carry your burdens. No one can make your decisions. No one can choose your habits. That realization can feel overwhelming, but it also brings clarity, because the moment you claim everything as yours, your failures, your flaws, your victories, you realize that the life you want is not waiting for someone else to deliver it. It is waiting for you to claim it through deliberate action. The emotional tax of ownership often shows up in the form of loneliness. When you start holding yourself to higher standards, you may notice that not everyone around you is willing to do the same. Some may mock your discipline. Others may resent your refusal to play the old games of blame and excuses. But ownership requires you to prioritize growth over approval. Socrates said, "To find yourself, think for yourself." Ownership means daring to think for yourself even when it leaves you standing apart from the crowd. That separation is part of the cost, but it also becomes the source of your strength. Another part of the cost is that ownership makes you brutally aware of your limitations. When you are no longer able to push responsibility onto others, you are forced to see clearly where you have fallen short. This can be painful, but it is also freeing, for it is only when you acknowledge your weaknesses that you can begin to strengthen them. Aristotle wrote, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." Ownership is that knowledge in practice. It strips away illusion and forces you to meet yourself honestly. And while honesty can wound, it also heals, because it gives you the ground from which to rise. The longer you live with ownership, the more you realize it is less about perfection and more about consistency. You don't take control of your life in one dramatic act. You do it in the small, often invisible choices you make every day. Choosing to finish the task instead of leaving it undone. Choosing to take responsibility for a mistake instead of covering it up. Choosing to improve a little each day rather than waiting for the perfect opportunity. These choices add up, and over time, they transform not just what you do, but who you believe yourself to be. Slowly, you become someone you can trust, someone who does not break their own word. And that self-trust is worth more than comfort, more than excuses, more than blame. The cost of ownership will never disappear. Every day you choose it, you pay in effort, honesty, and discipline. But in return, you gain a kind of freedom that cannot be taken from you. You gain clarity in your direction, strength in your actions, and pride in your character. You stop being the passenger who complains about the journey and become the driver who steers with intention. And once you experience that kind of freedom, you realize that the price you paid was not a burden, it was an investment. In the end, the real question is not whether ownership is costly, but whether you are willing to trade your comfort for your potential. The emotional tax is real, but so is the reward. To own your life is to carry weight, yes, but it is also to stand tall under that weight, knowing it is shaping you into someone stronger, clearer, and more alive. And that is a price worth paying. When you truly begin to hold yourself accountable, something subtle but powerful shifts inside you. At first, it's just about your own life, waking up when you said you would, following through on your commitments, taking ownership when things don't go as planned. But over time, this discipline changes not just how you see yourself, but how you see others. You stop tolerating weakness, not because you want to judge or belittle anyone, but because you understand what it costs to rise. You know the weight of responsibility. You know the pain of pushing past excuses. You know the discipline required to climb out of comfort and into growth. And once you've paid that price, you can no longer look at avoidance or mediocrity in the same way. It's not judgment, it's recognition. The remarkable thing is that people notice this shift, often without you saying a word. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, others begin to feel it. They see it in your actions, in your consistency, in the quiet way you live what you preach. This is why ownership is contagious. It spreads not through lectures, but through example. This is why becoming the standard matters so much. The world doesn't change because we demand more from others. It changes because we demand more from ourselves. When you raise your own standard, people around you begin to mirror it. A friend starts rethinking their own excuses because they see you choosing discipline over distraction. A colleague works harder because your consistency quietly raises the bar. Even within your family, your example sets a tone that words alone could never achieve. Leadership, in the truest sense, begins here, not with authority, but with ownership. Of course, becoming the standard carries a cost. People will resist you at first. Some will criticize, others may pull away. Accountability threatens those who are not ready to face themselves. But here again, the Stoics offer clarity. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. If your standard unsettles others, let it. Your role is not to lower yourself for their comfort, but to live in a way that calls them upward. You cannot force anyone to rise, but you can refuse to step down, and in time, the very people who once resisted may begin to admire or even follow the path you've chosen. When you take responsibility, when you awaken to your own power, you become more than just another person drifting with the crowd. You become a standard, a measure against which others naturally weigh themselves, and this does not mean perfection. It means honesty, integrity, and a refusal to abandon the responsibilities that make life meaningful. Awakening is not about doing everything flawlessly, but about facing life consciously, without excuses or illusions. The more you embrace this, the more you realize that responsibility is not only personal, it is social. Your actions ripple outward. By living with ownership, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. When they see you holding yourself accountable, they begin to wonder what might be possible if they did too. In this way, you don't just change your own life, you begin to reshape the culture around you. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." When you become the standard, you are that person for others. You are the one whose presence lifts rather than drags down, whose example pushes rather than excuses. And yet, the work never ends. Becoming the standard isn't about reaching a point where you are beyond failure. It's about staying committed to the path, even when it is difficult, even when it feels lonely. The higher your standard, the more you will see your own shortcomings. But that is part of the process. It keeps you humble, it keeps you honest, and it keeps you moving. Aristotle once wrote, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Becoming the standard is not a single achievement. It is the habit of excellence, practiced day after day, in ways both small and great. In the end, this is the heart of ownership. It begins within you, but it doesn't stay there. It spreads into your work, your relationships, your community. It shapes the way others see themselves, often without them even realizing it. If you want a better world, it starts with you. Not with speeches, not with demands, but with the quiet, consistent choice to live at a higher level, to hold yourself accountable when no one is watching, to awaken to your own responsibility, and by doing so, awaken others. Becoming the standard is not about being above anyone else. It's about being deeply aligned with yourself. It's about living in such a way that your actions speak louder than your words, and your presence calls others toward their own higher potential. Ownership begins with one person, but once it takes root, it never stays there. It spreads, it inspires, and in time, it transforms. In the end, everything comes down to this. Your life is shaped not by what happens to you, but by the ownership you choose to take. The moment you stop making excuses and start carrying your own weight, you reclaim your power. That choice is not easy, but it is the only path to freedom, clarity, and strength. So let today be the day you rise to your own standard. If this message spoke to you, keep going. Watch one of the suggested videos on your screen now and continue this journey of self-mastery. And thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal.